Ask Tuffers. We've been asking you to send in your questions to us, tms@bbc.co.uk. You can also get involved on social media, #AskTuffers.
Have you vetted them?
I haven't. I'm hoping producer Adam has.
I've got a slight little bead of sweat trickling down my forehead. I remember you, Phil, in Barbados in 1990. Yes.
Can you recall yourself in Barbados?
Well, no, so anything could happen. Anything could happen.
Well, an international career that spanned 11 years, 42 test matches, 121 wickets, a batting average at a healthy average of 5.1.
I'll take that.
And last night we actually had a quiz, didn't we? And you didn't know what your international ODI batting average was.
Well, it was 15. No wonder no one got it right. How have I managed to acquire a batting average of 15? I think there must have been a lot of not outs in there.
Yes, you hung around. You hung around at the end.
Yeah.
But let's get to the first question then. Jim in Cardiff.
Right.
Back in the day, I recall seeing you many times bowling for Middlesex and taking wickets, but consistently not getting picked for England, when even Boycott had nice things to say about your skills.
No way. Really? Boys?
As I recall, the reason for not picking you was lack of ability with the bat. Instead, we had bits and pieces players who could neither make runs nor take wickets. How frustrating was that for you, and how did you deal with it?
Well, I should have improved my batting. It's as simple as that. And, I did with my fielding. I made myself into a sort of competent fielder and what have you. But remember, back in those days, there were times have changed. There were specialist places for people, even wicket keepers. Wicketkeeper didn't particularly have to bat, or could just hold a bat at sort of like 8 or 9 or things like that. So that was a bit of a regret of my career, not scoring a test match century, which would have been nice. But looking back, you've just got to get on with it, and you've got to go back and keep getting wickets in county cricket. That's how it was in those days. No central contracts or anything like that. And so if you were overlooked, and you felt you were doing well, instead of getting down, I was very lucky to play for Middlesex with a lot of, experienced England internationals in the dressing room, like Sir John Embry, Mike Gatting and all these guys. And the thing they just kept saying to me was, all right, practice a bit on your batting and what have you, but also, just keep knocking on the door with weighted wickets. And then that's what I did. And eventually, got me go. And then you had to then make sure that you grabbed it with both hands as well, because you knew in those days you could feel the old guillotine, just getting sharpened. It was quite an awkward time, really, in those sort of like late 80s, early 90s and what have you, with selection and everything. So once you did get your run out, you were under pressure to perform. Otherwise, crikey, I played with so many players, only played one test match or a couple of test matches and then never seen again.
What was your method of operation in terms of learning and getting better as a spin bowler? These days players can watch all the different cricketers on television. They've got access to all the material. They're involved in tournaments around the world where they can actually go up to players and speak to them and extract advice. What was it like for you? How were you looking to better yourself?
Well, that was the one thing, as I say, looking back again, it was a little bit disappointing, really, is because, nowadays, Don Best went over to see Harath, and there's all these low arms, different grips and everything like that. You tinkered with yourself, really. And I'd got to a stage in my career when I was about, 21, 22, that I could bowl. I was a good bowler, and I had some variations of flight and pace, arm balls, and sort of like then tinkered about with release points and what have you, but only sort of tinkered around with it. The main thing that I learned, was things about how to study an opposition batsman, how to then set fields to make him play in places that you wanted him to play, and not for him to dominate you like that. But I would have loved, all of this. This analysis and going over and talking. I was listening to Azza about, talking about all these different thumb positions and everything like that. We never really sort of did it in those days, You had what you had, you worked on it, you honed it. And so sometimes I was just sort of bowling in the nets, just thinking, well, I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, this is just a little bit of a waste of time. I've grooved me action. I'm in good rhythm. You know, I only need to be out here for 10 or 15 minutes because there's nothing else. I wasn't really working on anything. My accuracy was there. My stop balls were there. My variations of flight and stuff were there. And I sort of wanted a little bit more, but there wasn't particularly any more knocking about. And so you just sort of went, oh, well, okay, then I'll just keep chugging on, you know.
So you're saying that in the nets you felt incredibly confident.
Yeah.
Were there any times where you did doubt yourself out in the middle and perhaps had to go back to the drawing board and say, well, actually, I need to be better?
Well, no, but it then came down to really, for me, the surface you're playing on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you lost the toss at Brisbane, and you're sitting there and you're going, oh, crikey, well, you know, it's not really up my alley, this one. You know what I mean? And you're bowling before lunch on the first day, crikey, all right, and then Warney turns up and spins it a mile. You know what I mean? There's not too much you can do then. But there again, you see, just after my time, they sort of came in and there was the strategy of you're not actually going up against that person. Do the best that you can do. When I was playing, you know, I always wanted to be the best in the world, so to speak, you know what I mean? But then sometimes, you know, you just can't do that, you know what I mean? Because of the pitch and the revs you put on the ball and this, that and the other. But that was never really explained to me. And so you then just, when you got a pitch that was conducive for you, make the most of it. It'd be like getting daddy hundreds, you know, as an opening batsman. You know, you're going to get the odd good ball, you're going to get the flat pitch to bowl on, but when you get your eye in or when you're on a spinning pitch, make sure you get plenty.
Absolutely. You might have just heard at the hover covers there. For the first time today, the pitch has been revealed.
Sunshine.
We can see the 22 yards and the grass upon that wicket as well. Simon Lee, the head groundsman, left a fair amount of grass on there at the start of the test match just to hold things together, increase the pace in the wicket.
I think the wickets have been goodish,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
I really like the Old Trafford pitches that we played on up there.
Yeah.
Really good for everyone. And this one, okay, perhaps it's with the weather and what have you, a little bit decking about a bit too much, but I mean, good viewing.
Yeah, well, it's been incredible to have as much cricket as we have had this summer, given the circumstances, up until this test match, where it has been very, very frustrating. But it is bright sunshine here, and Martin Saggers is walking around near the wicket.
Prodding things with an umbrella.
He is. We will have another inspection in about 25 minutes' time or so. Before I get on to the next question, was it always spin bowling for you?
No, I was a fast and nasty. Yes,
right.
No, I used to steam in. Very good. Used to open the batting as well for the school. Used to do everything, you know what I mean?
So where did it all go wrong?
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, where it all went wrong... Well, no, where it all went right, actually, for the bowling was when I was playing some Middlesex age group cricket. You know, I think I was about 8 years old playing for the under-11s, you know what I mean? So was doing a bit of everything, could bowl, could bat and everything. And then there was a chap there called Jack Robertson, who used to play for England, wonderful cricketer, batsman. And he said to me, you know, have you ever thought about... he said, you're quick. He said, and you know, you're good. You're a good bowler. You know what I mean? But he said, you know, there's a lot of quick bowlers out there. You know what I mean? He said, your advantage is you're a lefty. He said, have you ever thought about spinning the ball? Because there's not too many left-arm spinners about. And, you know, you don't have to run in all that way. So my ears pricked up immediately. And then he showed me how to do it. You know, it's probably one of the first only bit of coaching I've got, really. And he showed me, you know, turn the door handle and the classic sort of way of explaining how to bowl spin and what have you. And then the first time I ran up in the nets and tried it from a sort of a nice seamer's action, but then just actually then rotating the wrist with the seam in the right position and everything, almost did it like a seamer, like a cutter, but then bowled it and it pitched and it turned. And I've just gone, there was a little light bulb sort of like ping off in the head, you know, and the kid down the other end's gone, oh, crikey, you know, and missed it. And I've gone, oh, crikey, that's quite good fun, you know what I mean? And then it just then, I started doing it little bits and pieces in nets, playing around with it and still bowling quick. ish, and then slowly developed into it through the age groups, and then just all of a sudden one day sort of decided, right, I'm a left arm spinner.
Yeah, right. But that is it is a difficult thing to do. I mean, pace bowlers bowl cutters all the time, but actually it's a very different action because you have to get up and over a little bit more. Is that Laura Marsh? A similar sort of thing. She was a quick bowler. She started off life as a quick bowler and then became an off spinner. But I remember her doing a lot of work with Jack Birkinshaw.
Yeah.
And almost having, so sometimes they would put a chair on a length.
Yeah.
You had to get up and over just to create that loop.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but then you work on it, you work on it and sorry, but for me, I think that natural rhythm I had as a left arm seamer, I had a naturally good action, just from as a boy, running in and sort of getting there and then following through and what have you. So that was always there. And you could always sort of feed off of that when you were then trying, as you say, get up and over, stand tall, chin up, follow through, core positions and all this kind of stuff. And then and the other thing that I did have, which was very, very lucky, is that I had a natural sort of loop and a natural dip, I don't know where necessarily that came from, but it just was very, very natural just to sort of like get that sort of up and down, you know. And I think sometimes you do see spin bowlers who have obviously just started playing cricket as spin bowlers. And I think that, you can just see in their actions sometimes they're a bit sort of stuttery and perhaps, because they when I was playing, they were the kind of ones that got the yips a little bit because they didn't have that natural sort of like action from being a seam bowler to then sort of call upon. So when things were slightly going wrong for me, I just used to run up in the nets and bowl sort of like medium pacers just to get your sort of your action through and get yourself following through and your little trigger points as a bowler. That was my sort of fallback, just to do that, and then just sort of said, oh well, that's better. I'm getting I'm getting through it.
So you
now.
added to your workload.
Well, yes, but I mean, very, very, very rarely did I lose it. But occasionally, it just helps. That's quite a good tip, actually, for spin bowlers. Yeah. Sometimes obviously, you want to run up and bowl, hard and what have you, and spin it hard. But then sometimes, when you just feel that your action's a bit jerky and a bit juddery, just run up and bowl some nice little sort of slow medium stuff, just to get yourself sort of in rhythm.
I like it. And the batting?
Well, the batting. I was a good batsman, I was a good batsman, but then I played all the age groups cricket up till I was about 16, and then I got myself a moped, and started going to work with my father, and might have popped into the odd libation house, you know what I mean, and what have you, and girls and things like that, and gave it up, and then for about 2 or 3 years. And then got back into it, and as I said, the action and the bowling was still there, but everyone had got bigger. You know what I mean? Everyone had become huge over this 3 years.
And you stayed the same height.
And I didn't know. I didn't say the same height. I just sort of stayed the same. Hold on a minute. All these half volleys I used to be smashing through extra cover because the little lads couldn't get it up around your head. They'd all come about 6'8" and was bowling 90 miles an hour, and I hadn't then progressed with that, if you know what I mean. I'd stayed at that sort of part of my life in my batting, and then hadn't netted and what have you, and then sort of like naturally become so it's absolutely terrifying. All of a sudden, whoa, where's he come from? He's got a beard and a moustache and everything, you know what I mean? He's zipping them down at me. So, I was always struggling a little bit.
And you were struggling with the stubble.
Yeah, well, that's right, yeah. They changed.
So your advice to teenagers is basically don't get distracted.
Well, exactly. I mean, how many people have said that, in their careers, who are very, very good cricketers who then, just as you say, well, you've got to go and earn a living, haven't you? And you've got to go and make a few quid and make your way in the world. So you're very lucky to then get yourself back into it.
We've got another question in. Tim from Northumberland. Does Tuffers think that Dom Bess is going to be the next permanent England spinner, injuries permitting, over the next few years? It seems to me that spinners definitely need to have some bravado and oomph about them, convince the opposition batsmen that they won't be able to read their variations, and just to confuse the heck out of them until they make a mistake, personally.
Well, you've got to have some bravado, that's for sure, because at the end of the day, we're bowling slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you've got to be able to kind of, put sort of intimidated by, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to really mess you up. I'm going to bowl it even slower. You know what I mean? It sounds a bit strange, but you've got to go out there and believe in yourself. Otherwise, these guys nowadays will just take you apart. I think Don Bess is learning on the job, isn't he? Really? I mean, what a wonderful place to be. Listening to him this morning, you know what I mean? It's great to just, be involved in the setup. He's getting games, okay, not playing too much part in them, and what have you, but he's got his wickets, he's got his five in Port Elizabeth, I think, and so he's learning on the job. He's a young kid, and he's obviously got the right attitude, I think, and the right character, because that's what they've seen in him. He bats all right, doesn't he, at 8 or 9, throws himself around in the field, and with all these coaches and all this stuff now, he can only get better for me.
What would your advice be to any sort of young county cricketers wanting to bowl spin and make it to England level, especially on the pitches that they play on here in the UK?
It's difficult.
You've got to get outside the bubble, haven't you? I mean, it might be difficult at the moment in these times to get away and go to the subcontinent.
Yes. But
would that be the advice to get into those sorts of conditions and just try and play and train there as much as possible?
Well, what I did when I first got onto the Middlesex staff, they were all very keen. I went to Australia when I was about 18 or 19 and played for Queensland University, which is a bit ironic. That was the first time I've ever been to university, actually, and played for them in grade cricket on flat pitches. Very good pitches in Aussie, and against some big old boys, proper guys who were trying to get into Queensland stateside and what have you. Very, very good standard. And there was also then that feeling that, hold on a minute, well, they've taken me over here. I better do something here, otherwise they're all going to start taking the mickey out of me. And these fellas were, proper players, these guys, and they were looking to take you down, because you're the old pom and what have you.
Yeah.
And so that made me grow up quite a lot and quite quickly, and then had to make me think on my own feet a little bit. You're away from home for 6 months. You've got to look after yourself and do your washing and everything, as well as find a way of surviving this. You know what I mean? And I did. Bowled nicely, and we won a couple of competitions over there. But that was a great learning curve that you could actually then adapt yourself without just perhaps keep going to coaches and keep going to books and keep going to this and keep going to that. Well, hold on a minute. It gave me a lot of confidence that I could do it myself.
Australia, though, that's an easy place not to get distracted.
Yeah, well, there you go. We had a good time, I tell you. Especially with the uni boys. They were great fellas, actually. They looked after me really well, and we had a great time.
James Lewis, I have just watched the 4 best catches from Phil Tufnell on YouTube during the rain break.
Well, thank you very much.
Outrageous that Phil has been ridiculed for his lack of fielding prowess.
Couldn't agree more.
One has just got to watch a running catch to get Slater, who was on 103 at the time. Well, my favourite, another similar catch to dismiss Lara on 64.
Yes.
Have you been unfairly criticised for fielding?
Not really. No, I have a little bit. As you said, you had to make yourself into a... Listen, you're never going to be Jonty Rhodes, you know what I mean? There's only some people who can do that, I'm afraid. But then you make yourself, and that's just through weighted catches, really. You're just out there, come on, give us another... You won't go in until you've caught 100 or something like that. But it made myself a decent-ish fielder, which you have to be. You don't want to drop catches. There's nothing worse than dropping catches. I mean, I've dropped a couple, but they seem to follow you around. Those ones, you know what I mean? Those ones are the ones that they can remember, and you just want the ground to eat you up. But didn't want to drop Brian Lara, crikey, O'Reilly. I don't think my fellow bowlers would have talked to me again if I'd have dropped him. So I made sure I clung on to him. What
was the worst one? What was the worst one you ever dropped?
There was one. I still can't. Well, of course, the run out in Sydney when Eddie Hemmons just threw it back to me and Mark and Steve were at one end, and Steve was walking off, taking his gloves off, and it just hit my hands and pinged off to mid-off, and I've turned and tried to throw the stumps down and missed it, which was horrific. But the other one I can remember was I think it was Ken Rutherford in Dunedin in a World Series match, England versus Australia, and I bowled this beautifully beautifully flighted, spinning, dipping left arm orthodox delivery, which turned and bounced and was wonderful. And Ken's just gone to knock it through mid wicket, and he's got a leading edge, which I'll tell you something, if I threw a ball to you
right now
from here and just went like that, it came back to me like that, and I was so I was celebrating before it actually hit my hands. You know what I mean? I've gone yes, and then actually just forgot to catch it. And I think the lack of pace and it was so simple actually then sort of did me. I've completely taken my eye and my mind off of the ball and what have you, and down it went. Down it went. Oh wow. Oh dear.
Don't worry, Tuffers, you're in good company.
Yeah,
I had a similar one.
Yes.
Meg Lanning, chip back.
I know.
And it, we didn't have that many televised games at the time.
I know.
And I dropped it literally both hands. It was the simplest of catches, and it just fell onto the floor. And when you just pick it up as
no one saw that.
Yeah, no one saw it. And just walked back to the top of my mark, hoping that no one's seen it. Yeah, it's.
But and to this day, I still don't know how I dropped it. You know what I mean? I sit there, sometimes waking up in a cold sweat. You know what I mean? In the middle of the night, going but you get done.
Yeah, it's definitely embarrassing, especially when it gets put all over YouTube. That's for sure. What about your first Test match then? Because you returned to Australia, 1990,
That's right.
Melbourne.
Yeah. It's his first Test match. What a
what a place to play.
It was a little bit ticklish. That was a little bit ticklish. Very excited, obviously. Thousands and thousands of Australian people there, all shouting and screaming, you know what I mean?
Bay 13 fired up?
I think it was, and even the drive on the coach was a little bit lively, because the whole of Melbourne is descending to the G, and you're in the coach and there's a few bangs on, bang, bang on the coach and everything. You go, crikey, O'Reilly, you know what I mean? So you're trying to keep your emotions in a bit of check. But I can't actually remember my first two deliveries. I got thrown this dog ball, which had no seam on it. It was a Kookaburra ball, and it had dotted. You know how it dots sometimes when all the seam's been scuffed off by the abrasiveness of the pitch? So it's just dots. It had all the leather had sort of like splitting and everything. And then, I've been sort of wandering around, sort of getting stick from the crowd for a couple of hours, and then all of a sudden he's caught my eye. And I can sort of vaguely remember standing at the end of my mark and him throwing me this ball and just going, "You're joking!" It looked like my Rottweiler had been at it for about a week, and I've gone, "Wow, what am I going to do with that?" And then the next thing, Dean Jones was batting. Dean Jones, I think, was playing, and I don't remember actually bowling the first two deliveries, which is quite weird. But I've obviously got them down there. I think I'd gone a little bit on autopilot, 1, 2, 3, hop, skip, dum-de-dum-de-dum, bowl. Jolly good, but didn't particularly think of anything. And then the third ball, I woke up because I bowled this delivery. Dean Jones had charged down the pitch and hit it straight back at me, right? And it sort of rolled, it was coming back at me, and it hit me right on the inside ankle point. Like your ankle bone there. Yeah. And it smacked me really hard on that point like that. And it sort of woke me up out of this sort of dreamlike state. And I've sort of gone, "Oh, you're right, okay, let's have it." You know what I mean? Right, wow, ow. You know what I mean? Like that. And I've walked back, and it sort of like jogged me out of this autopilotness, and then I was off and away. But then for two balls, I still can't really quite
remember what happened.
No, you know what I mean? I can't remember that delivery.
Yeah.
The only delivery I can remember is after that. Yeah. And what a place, what a place to make your debut.
Could you hear the sounds as you were running into bowl, or did you just put it out of your mind?
Yeah, as you walk through the members, I might have been given a few sounds that I perhaps heard a couple of times beforehand, and you were given some stick, but I kind of liked that in a funny sort of way. Gave you something to bite on a little bit. I as a cricketer, see, my wicket keepers, they always used to say to me, "Phil, get angry. I bowled better when I was angry, or I thought sort of someone was after, come and get me, you know what I mean? I'll get you first, sort of thing, you know what I mean? If everything was all beautiful and I was bowling for other people and bowling pretty stuff, it didn't quite have the same effect. I wanted to get, so sometimes my keepers, they used to wind me up a little bit, so I used to fight them a little bit. I used to like that.
So you had an alter ego on the pitch. You went from being the cat to...
the tiger.
Well, it brings me to the next question. Nav and Leamington Spa, Phil, what was the angriest you got on the cricket field? You always seem so jolly, but I'm sure even you had a run-in or two on the field.
Yeah, had a few run-ins. I used to like a little bit of chat, actually, with the... I learned that very quickly, not to have a chat with the umpires. Because, at the end of the day, they just used to smile at you when they were completely stone dead and give them not out. So I learned by my mistakes very, very quickly there. You have little run-ins, don't you? You have plenty of run-ins out there and little chats. I kind of gave up sledging when I said to Brian Lara, "You lucky old so-and-so," and I think it was all about 340. And he just looked at me and went, "What, Phil?" And I went, "I know, it's a bit silly, isn't it?" I don't know quite why I said that. But no, you've got to, obviously you're not shouting and swearing and everything, but as the question beforehand said, you've got to give them a stare. You've got to own that 22 yards when you're bowling it, especially as a spin bowler. You've got to... Shane Warne, brilliant at it, you know what I mean? You've got to create that theatre to try and put them under some pressure, because otherwise they're just sort of going, "Hold on, he's just bowling slow here." You know what I mean? You've got to sort of, and that can happen with the wicket-keeper and the close-in fielders. You've got to make them feel... You've got to try and get them out of their comfort zone. This is my office here. It's not your office. He's trying to make it his office, and I'm trying to make it as uncomfortable for him as I can.
What if you've just bowled a short, wide one?
Well, I didn't bowl too many of them.
No. So listening to Shane Warne, he does talk a lot about the theatre and the mystery, and almost sometimes just going up to the captain or getting Ricky over and just saying, they're not actually saying anything.
Fish and chips.
Just to put that in the batsman's mind.
Yeah, pizzas. Yeah, and he's going, what are they saying?
So you did that quite a bit?
Well, a little bit, Yeah, for sure. There's little tricks of the trade. Well, not tricks of the trade. It's just, what people don't sometimes realise that it's pretty intense out there, I think that it's slightly changed a bit now, actually. When I was playing, it was pretty intense, The Australian side were just trying to come back out of their slump, like with the likes of Alan Border and everything, you know what I mean? So they were absolutely on you, you know what I mean? We would try, they had the West Indies greats of Malcolm Marshall and Desmond and Haynes and all these guys. Crikey, O'Reilly, you knew all about that and all when you went to the West Indies and stuff. So these kind of sides, it was pretty full on. It was full on, and they let you know about it. They wanted to work. Well, they wanted to knock lumps out of you.
Incredibly intimidating. Alan Border, he very much was in charge of the start of that new era for Australian cricket, and that went from a time of being quite matey with the opposition, and I think back to 81, and in the middle of a test match they'd be round Beefy's house and all hanging out and having a few drinks, and that stopped, and almost ignoring the opposition, not even looking them in the eye, no highs, hellos on the day's play. So you would never socialise with them on a tour at the end of a test match?
Not particularly. I didn't particularly get on with that. I quite liked, as you say, that kind of like, you know what I mean? No, I don't want to let them into my... some guys, they like that because they think you can get into the opposition and you just see him as a normal human being and what have you. And, Glenn McGrath, he's just a normal bloke, he's sitting there. But no, I wasn't particularly a fan of that, you know what I mean? I sort of liked that kind of backs against the wall kind of attitude.
Mary, we're going to change tack here. I love watching you on Question of Sport.
Oh yes, good.
How do you remember so much trivia?
I know, well, because I'm quite trivial. No, I like it. It's great. Well, we've been doing it for a few years now, so you kind of got such a lot of information stored in the old noggin. Yeah, great fun. Got a great team down there, Matt and Sue. You know what I mean? We have such a good laugh, and just an absolute honour and a pleasure to watched it as a boy. With my family playing along to it. You know what I mean? With Emlyn and Beefy and Bill and all those people. Yeah. And so then to become part of that, is great fun. It's just great fun. Got such a good team involved there as well that everything's just they know what they're doing, you know what I mean? And so all we've got to do is go out there and try and answer a few questions.
Because you record them all quite close together, don't you? So do you spend a bit of time just doing a bit of research ahead of it?
Yeah, I think Dorse does.
Yeah, he seems like that type.
I've been round his house. Yes, I've been round his house and his downstairs loo. There's like loads of sports quiz books and everything. But I mean, you just kind of, when the golf's on, you watch the golf. When the tennis is on, you try and watch the tennis. I've always watched sport anyway. The missus is upstairs watching Housewives of New York or something, and I'm downstairs with the sport on usually, sort of thing. So you're always keeping up with it or reading the paper and social media and stuff, you know what I mean? But I'm not particularly sitting there cramming.
Well, Dawes became a quiz master.
Well, I know
during
he loves
lockdown.
it. Yeah, I know he absolutely loves
It's his full-time job.
Yeah, I know. Well, he used to be a teacher, Dawes. He used to be a geography teacher, I think, like that. So he's got that sort of capacity for remembering things. When mine, kind of once it's gone in, it sometimes goes out the other way.
Okay.
But great fun, love it.
It's great to watch you on it. Haroon Rashid, Tuffers are great of English cricket. I would like to ask, which batsman did Tuffers find most difficult as a bowler?
Well, they all need getting out. Apart from when you get down to sort of like... Well, I couldn't get out Danny Morrison in New Zealand. Crikey O'Reilly, so they all need getting out. Danny Morrison, Danny the Duck, couldn't get him out. And he saved the Test match. They all need getting out as soon as they pull on that international jumper. There's not too many free wickets knocking about.
You had a couple of good battles with Mark Waugh. I remember you coming down to Australia and...
Sure. Fantastic player, Mark Waugh, Steve Waugh, Sachin Tendulkar, Brian Lara, crikey, Desmond Haynes, Viv Richards, and perhaps at the end of their careers, Vinod Kambli. I tell you something, Vinod Kambli, on a spinning pitch somewhere or other, got to, and one thing that I was pretty good at was a left-hander. I could virtually shut off the offside, because especially if there's rough. If there's rough outside the off stump, not too many of the players could cover drive me, even if they were using their feet, because I used to sort of take changes of pace, drag the length back a little bit and trying to get them groping, so could almost shut down the offside and they have to just hit me on the leg side. But Vinod Kambli, I think, got 220 odd at was it Madras or Bombay or something, or Mumbai, Chennai or Mumbai, and I was just going, oh, no one's really done that to me beforehand. And he almost hit me off the bounce and the turn, which is very, very difficult to do when it's coming into you. As Carl Hooper used to do the same to me. He used to come down, used to do him a little bit in the air. It used to pitch, and then he used to sort of like follow it as it spun and bounced, and then hit it. You know what I mean? Which is quite tricky, instead of just sort of like going down the same line and playing through the line, caught behind or stumped. And then Vinod Kambli almost did that to me out of the rough through extra cover for 220. Brilliant.
Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, BC, Lara, on the song. Lara, as you said, had the privilege of bowling in for 2.5 days in Antigua. 375 he got. But then I think we went to Guyana. I got him out for 2. Just goes to show, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But Brian, all those people, you say that the best batsmen that I've played against hit the ball where the fielders weren't. Simple as that.
Andy?
Tough as I got a stat you might like.
Come on.
Most forfers by England cricketers in their first 7 tests.
Yes.
Phil Tufnell,
Yes.
4.
Top of the tree.
Not top of the tree.
Oh, you built
In
me
fact,
up.
just off the podium. But only eight England bowlers have taken 4 or more forfers in their first 7 tests. Going back, George Lohman, Tom Richardson, F.R. Foster, and S.F. Barnes all before the First World War. Morris Tate after in the 1920s. Then since then, only Ian Botham, Nick Cook, another left-arm tweaker in the 80s, and yourself.
Thanks for that.
Just one of the first days of Test cricket I went to, you took 6 for 25 against West Indies at the Oval. It was an extraordinary day. Talk us through sort of that day, and because that was quite a big breakthrough for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I think that might have been my first home test. So obviously nerves again. Won the toss, thankfully, and I think you always wanted to bowl last, I think, or second on the oval pitch. And I can still remember Clayton Lambert. Clayton Lambert was my first first delivery. Gucci again, tough as come and have a go. Was talking about it, and as I've looked up, Clayton Lambert was practicing the slog. That's all I can call it. It wasn't it was just practice, just going whoosh, whoosh, like that massive, big old bloke Clayton, and smash, and he was just practicing it. And I was looking at him out the corner of my eye, sort of going, oh crikey, Riley, don't let him see I'm a bit worried, sort of thing. You know what I mean? He wasn't practicing leaving like they do. You know what I mean? He was just practicing slogging me over the cow corner, and I've run up, bowled him this little flighty one outside off stump, and he's played exactly that shot, hit the top edge, and Ramps caught him, and then, as you say, just got on a roll, and they kept coming in and they kept walking out. I think I might have got in that. I think I might have got 6 for 4 or something, didn't I? Something like that, the actual spell.
So it was 158 for 3. And then when Lambert was out, the new 176 all out. David Lawrence got Jeff Dujan out, and you got Marshall, Richards, Ambrose, Walsh and Patterson for a total of 4 runs between them. Yeah,
6 for 4.
You were just luring them in, weren't you?
Well, it's just funny, isn't it? It's your day. When it's your day, as we said earlier, you've got to make the most of it.
Well, speaking of your days, Australia, the Oval.
Well, that was
97.
another belter, yeah.
I'm going to run through the batsmen you got out
Go
here.
on.
Matthew Elliott, Mark Taylor, Greg Blewett, Mark Waugh, Ricky Ponting, Ian Healy and Young. So that was 7 in that
that's decent players there.
Australian innings. And the 4...
Keep going.
Yeah, I'll keep going, I will. You got Mark Waugh out twice in this.
Oh, did I? Unlucky Mark.
Ponting, Warne and McGrath.
Yeah, there you go. McGrath to win it at the end. That was an amazing game, actually. Amazing game.
Won by 19 runs.
And there was something about the Oval. I mean, I love Lords, played at Lords all my life, you know what I mean? And there's that lovely hum and what have you. But that day at the Oval, and also the West Indies day, there's something about the Oval that when you get on a roll, the crowd, and I can remember commentating it as well when England beat the Aussies to win the Ashes, with Freddie and Swanee getting the last wicket or something.
Yep. Stuart Broad also got a bit of a roll there.
There you go. Stuart Broad got on that roll, and there's something about the Oval that when you get on that roll, you just feel the place right with you, And I can remember sort of going down to the fine leg and what have you. In between overs, and there were people sort of hanging out of windows, just going, screaming and throwing beer everywhere, which, it sucks you along. Great support I've always had at the Oval. Yeah, it's brilliant. Special memories.
And Andy?
So that game at the Oval, Tuffers, was the only time since 1974 that an England spinner has taken 11 wickets in a home test.
There you go.
Monty Panesar did so away from home. But,
Happy days. What fun. It was great fun, Had such a laugh messing about. It was great to turn up there. And I love the crowd. I mean, and we're talking about, no crowds here. It is lovely to play. And I think it does help some people, doesn't it? But I love the crowd, Walk down the steps from the pavilion and everything, and everyone's shouting and screaming and supporting you, and you just want to do your best. You really do feel it's a bit like going on stage a little bit, really. You know what I mean? That's your stage, And some people sort of find it a bit tricky, but I always quite enjoyed it. You know what I mean? I love bowling.
Yeah.
It was great fun.
I'll ask you about Strictly in a minute, but Georgina in
I didn't fancy that too much.
Birmingham, who were your cricket heroes growing up?
Oh, crikey.
Was there a moment you were out on the field and you had to pinch yourself with who you were playing against?
Well, Viv at the Oval. Viv at the Oval. As a boy, I used to sit there with my cup of tea and my digestive biscuit watching Viv Richards when he was about 20 and 25, running about, running people out, smashing Bob Willis and Beefy around. Managed to bowl at him, got him out. So that was
Cheaply?
pretty good. Yeah, 2, I think he got 2 in that game. Yeah. So that was kind of funny. Ian Botham coming into the dressing room because I'd started playing for England. And as you say, it was quite tricky times in those days. Everyone was a little bit kind of, you weren't particularly come together as a team. There's a couple from Kent who sort of sat over there, a couple from Middlesex, we sort of sat over there. A couple of Surrey boys, a Gloucester boy, you know what I mean? It was all a bit sort of higgledy-piggledy and a bit bitty. And so I was actually sort of a little bit disappointed with the whole sort of England experience, really.
Right.
But obviously, loved playing and everything, but I thought there'd be more to it,
And that didn't change at all?
Well, no, it did when then Beefy got reselected, and I think that was for the Oval, wasn't it? And it got reselected, a slightly older Ian, and that was the leg over with Aggers and what have you, that comment with Johners and what have you. And he then came in and sort of like broke all those barriers down a little bit, you know what I mean? Which I was very sort of happy to see, and everyone sort of relaxed a little bit and started to enjoy things, and catching practice was a bit more fun, you know what I mean? And the evenings in the team room were all a bit more together, and so it's amazing what just one chap can sort of bring to a side. Instead of all these sort of youngsters really sort of nervous and worried about what they're going to do, and is their place up for grabs, and crikey, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? He sort of came in and just said, listen, you know what I mean? Not in a speech sort of way. You just sort of went, oh, well, that's a bit better. You know what I mean? We can all relax a little bit and start to try and sort of like show what we can do.
Yeah. And that helped performances?
Yes, I think it did. Yeah, it did. Well, and then we went on to the 1992 World Cup final,
Yeah.
And that was mainly because of that, in a funny sort of way.
Claude in Cornwall, hi all, thanks for this feature. Tuffers has been as entertaining as ever. I have a very simple question, Phil. When facing Shane Warne, what was with the legs?
I don't know. I fell over. That's on YouTube as well. I don't know quite. I think I've actually missed a ball by a record margin because I decided to come down the wicket once to Shane just through frustration of not knowing what was going on, and I've run down the wicket and had a great, just
heave-ho.
I've had a complete heave-ho, and then I've watched it on the highlights the next day or that evening. I reckon I missed that delivery by 6 foot. Because it turned and bounced, pitched sort of like, in the rough on the leg side, and it sort of gone to, I reckon I missed it by 6 foot. Unbelievable.
One of Shane Warne's easiest dismissals.
But you're talking about the legs one. That was when I fell over in Brisbane trying to kick him out of the rough. Oh God, just hit it.
You can be redirected to YouTube, is that what you're saying, to be able to watch that again?
Go watch the catches. Go watch the catches.
Yeah, they're better.
Yeah.
A fantastic life that you've had in cricket, but off the field as well. And Claude mentioned you being incredibly entertaining. Won the Jungle.
Yes.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
And then on to Strictly in 2009. Which was your favourite?
Well, I think the Jungle, you know what I mean? Because all you had to do was sit about and eat a few rice and beans and have a chat. It was quite nice. Occasionally a little bottle of wine would come down just to sit around the campfire. So no, they thoroughly enjoyed that. They did. Very, very lucky again, really. Managed to...
Was it just rice and beans?
No, unless we got some stars, had some sort of like rats put in our underpants or something, or beetles stuck up our nose or something, and then we'd earn some stars and what have you, and then perhaps get a possum or a mud crab or something to luckily, Anthony Worrell Thompson was in there, wasn't he? He was the chef. And so we actually ate quite well. You know, when a bit of grub did come down, he knew how to cook it all and everything. When he got thrown out, the food went downhill sharpish, I can tell you. We all just sort of threw it in a pot and stirred it.
That's when they had to eat the insects instead.
Yeah, well, I had to do that.
Oh, you did that?
Yeah, no, I did that. That weren't much fun. No, that weren't much fun as well. And Dr. Bob says that, who looks after everything under there, and he said, well, listen, you know, they've all been sort of purged and everything, I don't know, whatever. But he said you will feel them go down for a second or two, and you will feel them running around for a little bit.
No.
No, sorry if you're having your lunch. But so that was a little bit tricky, but no, thoroughly enjoyed that. And then, as you say, went and did a little bit of Strictly Come Dancing, which I think I was robbed, actually. I thought I was robbed. My dance partner said dancing with me was like moving furniture, which I think was a little bit harsh. I thought I was a little bit fleeter of foot than that, you know. But
as you've just described against Shane Warne.
Yeah, well, there you go. But no, a couple of really good kind of things, and then from off the back of that jungle, obviously, you know, you get to do a few other things, get involved with TMS, which has been an absolute joy.
Well, we absolutely love having you, Tuffers. Before we finish this, I just want to ask, last question.
Yeah.
Curtly Ambrose, just how scary was he?
Well, anyone who bowled was scary when I batted, really, let alone when you're 6'8" and bowling about 90 miles an hour. So, yeah, no, terrifying. As you said, one regret, never got my own back with the bat on them. Just a little 30 or 40 would have been nice.
Well,
but there you go. You can't have everything.
That will live in your dreams.
It will do. You can't have everything.
Phil Tufnell, thank you very, very much. Thanks to everyone who sent their questions in as well. Hope you enjoyed it.